has recently increased. Excellent. Incoming message.
Welcome, agents, to episode 82 of Behind the Scanner. Your hosts for tonight are Daphne D. from Washington, D.C., and Frank Martinez from Southern California. Hosting our chat room on BehindTheScanner.com is Jorge Pedrero from Mexico City. I'm Kelly Colson. Our special guests tonight are Brian Peterson from Chicago and Sarah M. from Rome, Italy. Welcome to the show. Have a question for our guests? Join us during the broadcast in our live chat room on our website, BehindTheScanner.com, or you can submit questions through the YouTube Q&A tool. If you know someone who would make a great guest, submit their information to us at BehindTheScanner.com and click on Guest Suggestions. Subscribe to our channel and watch previous recordings on YouTube, or listen to audio-only episodes on SoundCloud. For all the latest updates and news, follow us on Google+ and Facebook. And now, your hosts of Behind the Scanner.
Hi everybody, welcome to another week of Behind the Scanner. And we've got two really fun guests. We've got Sushi and Chibri tonight. And later tonight, I think joining for the Weekly Truth will be Jose Antonio Rey from Operation Essex. And let's see, we might have a special guest later on, so stay tuned. In the meantime, I have to admit, I am loving on our guests' names, Chibri and Sushi, or Sushi and Chibri. Where did those names come from? Brian, can you share?
I was actually wondering how you were going to say that. It's actually Chibri. Everybody does it as Chibri, and I'm always curious if anybody's going to get it right, and no one has, but that's okay. Initially, the name came from about 4 seconds of thought of, well, I want to indicate that I'm from Chicago, and my name is Brian, so it just became Chibri. And these days, a lot of people still call me Chibri as sort of a joke, and I'm okay with that. It gives me a chuckle.
Can I just call you Chib?
Chib?
Yeah.
No.
I'm just going to call you Chib. No? Oh, come on. We go back, man.
This is true. This is true. I'll cut you a little slack.
I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to jump in real quick and say the best nicknames are the ones you don't like. So I think Chib is going to stick.
Well, he's not calling you Chub.
Exactly.
How about you, Sarah? How'd you get your name? Oh, also unmute.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. The situation is, it's easy to understand. I'm a sushi addict. I started having this love for sushi in the middle of the 80s, when here in Italy it was not that common and not that easy to find Japanese restaurants around, and they were very expensive. But one day a friend of mine who was a journalist and had to write an article about the sushi restaurants, he brought me in one of those restaurants, and we had this very interesting sushi night, and I discovered this love for raw fish, and from that moment on I've been called Sushi everywhere. And I must admit that I do love more bucatini alla carbonara, I must admit, which is a typical Italian pasta, but the nickname was too long for Ingress, so I had to go for Sushi.
I like it. It's very cute, too. I like the spelling, too.
Yeah, I dig it. And I like sushi, too, so if we ever get together, that's what we're going to have. We're going to have some sushi.
Agreed, agreed.
So I have to ask, because it says here that you guys have shared continents at one time or another, right? So Sarah's from Europe, but she spent time in her youth here in the U.S., and Brian is from the U.S., but you've spent time in Europe. So did you guys ever cross paths at all in your youth? Any fond, any moments back in your, like, I guess back then it probably would have been like Friendster.
Could be.
Friendster.
So anyways, why don't you share, Sarah, share with us about your studies abroad.
Well, it was the most amazing period of my life. I spent almost 3 years in the U.S., and that's because my father, for work reason and because he was crazy actually, he moved a lot. And one day he came up with the idea, I will move to the U.S. because part of his family was and it is actually living there. And so I decided to follow him and to attend their part of the university. My mother was not happy at all because she stayed here, and even now it's sort of a taboo in the family. Because I left Italy for the U.S.
You left your mom?
Italian mothers. And so I spent there almost 3 wonderful years, and I learned a lot. Especially, I have to admit, I learned how to drink a lot and survive, which is actually very useful. And even how to drive on snow, which is something that living in Rome, it can happen seldom to you because here we don't have that much snow. I lived in the north, close to Boston.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, we had a lot of. Yes, I was in Concord.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gets pretty cold up there. That's probably some of the coldest weather, or at least severe storms that I've ever experienced, are in that part of the country.
Exactly. and I was born in Rome, which is really had a very mild temperature and climate all over the year, and so it was quite a shock at the beginning. But now I'm ready to live almost everywhere.
Yeah, you came home with some thick skin.
Yeah.
So, Brian, while you were in Europe for education, per se, did you get to live your dreams backpacking through the continent?
Yeah, I didn't go for formal education. I went for, I guess, sort of personal education.
Kind of a social education?
Yeah, I was 22 or 23. I quit my job. Hold on.
Uh-oh. We got muted. Well, I'm going to say at the age of 23, when you go to Europe, you're there for a good time, no matter what.
Sorry about that. Yeah,
I know if I was backpacking
Europe
through Europe
is
at
generally
the age
a
of
good time.
23, it would be a non-stop party, and it would probably end up like Hostel or something.
So I traveled all over Western Europe. I backpacked for about 3 months after quitting my job, and it was the time of my life. I hit, Italy and France and Spain and Switzerland. I made it as far east as Prague and had a fantastic time there. I was supposed to spend 3 days in Prague, and every morning I kept going down to the lobby of the hostel and saying, just give me one more day. I ended up being there for like 2 weeks, most of which I remember, but not all of it.
Right. So I guess both of you learned how to drink abroad.
Yes. Ask me about Oktoberfest sometime.
Oh, yes.
How about now? Tell us about Oktoberfest.
Yeah, there's no time like the present. Let's do this.
That was a rough 2-hour excursion where I consumed 4 1-liter steins of beer and regretted it immediately.
Oh man.
I have this.
You have what?
Yeah, I have this one in my curricula as well. The Oktoberfest. Yeah.
Munich's amazing, though.
Yeah.
So, from what you can remember, then let's put it that way. Are there any interesting places you'd like to return to play Ingress?
Speaking for myself, I would say Rome and Paris. They both have such rich history, and I remember when I was just backpacking Paris, you would just walk past a random building, and there would be a plaque on the side of it talking about in World War II, the French resistance was hiding out in this building, and you go to the cemeteries must be amazing just because there's so many historic people buried in those famous cemeteries.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wish. One of the things I regret not doing too much in my youth.
Backpacking or traveling Europe?
Yeah, I mean, just really having that sort of freedom. I mean, I've spent, I think, maybe at most 2 or 3 weeks at a time, but not to really just not have the agenda, not have the reservation, just go.
Yeah.
And yeah. Anyway, so are there any places that you'd like to return to specifically for Ingress?
Japan, and it's not only because of the sushi, but because I've been there exactly a couple of months before starting actually playing Ingress, and after that I was able to see how many portals do they have. So I guess it would be amazing. And of course the US. I'm missing the US a lot. Last time I was there, it was when my father died, unfortunately, in 2001. So really a long time ago. And I would like very much to come back to US. So sooner or later.
Yes, hope so. How about you, Brian?
For Ingress specifically, yeah, like I said, Paris and Rome would be amazing. The portal density must be crazy with all the historic spots there.
Yeah, we had a previous guest. She said, was it 13,000 in Paris alone, just within the city limits? I'm like, man, okay, yeah, I could totally finally get my Onyx.
Right.
Yeah. All right, so, and you know, Brian, while we're talking to you, did you play many video games before Ingress?
As a teenager, I had been very, very into first-person shooter games to the point that I had a bit of a problem with them. And I, you know, in my early 20s, I just said enough is enough and basically gave up gaming. And, you know, occasionally I would be bored and I would install something on my phone and I would play it for a few days while traveling, but it always just went by the wayside. And the Ingress is sort of the same thing for me. I picked it up. I thought I was going to play it for a couple nights, and here I am a week shy of 3 years and still going strong. So go figure.
Yeah, and how did you get into Ingress in particular?
Well, I mean, I had seen mention of it online. I was already active on G+ before Ingress, so it
Whoa.
you know, it sort of all the information came out of G+ anyway, so I was exposed to it just by accident. I knew of it. I requested an invite code and may have had a sibling that worked at Google that may have been able to bump me up a little further in the queue. Called in some favors, I think. But I got the invite, and I was like, oh, awesome. I'll play this the next time I'm super bored. And it wasn't until like a month later that I was in Phoenix. I was bored for a night. I installed it. I did the training, and the next thing I knew, the next night, I was walking around downtown Phoenix for like 3 hours. Nobody walks in Phoenix. They say that about LA, but it's true for Phoenix as well.
Yeah.
I was hooked immediately.
Wow. Now, Sarah, your childhood wasn't exactly full of traditional gameplay, it sounded like. What kind of environment did you grow up in?
Well, my childhood, it was a challenging childhood, I had to admit, because I've been lucky enough because my neighborhood is quite a green and calm one, so very good for kids. But in the building where I was living at the time, which is the building where my mother is still living, I was the only girl. So I had this maybe 10 to 12 kids and me. And at the very beginning, they were very, very bad to me. They tortured me, actually. And yeah, they usually played with very awful games. Like I remember that one, it was called The Pitcher. And the picture was that I had to sit down on a step and stay freeze like that, and they used this soccer ball just to try to hit me. Can you imagine that? And this went on for a while.
That's like the worst game ever.
Yeah.
Yes, it was the worst game ever. But then that's where I learned to bear, pain. Now I'm really good in suffering without, that much noise. But
Okay.
then one day I decided it was enough, and so I went to my mother garden, which was really close to the place, the courtyard where we used to play, and I picked up this rake, and I threatened them, yelling around, "Stop doing that, or I will beat you with this rake on your watermelon head, so please stop." And they stopped, actually. So from that moment on, I was able to actually play with them, but of course to normal male games like soccer, and I was a goalkeeper. And then we played war games, and then we went around with a bicycle doing very, very dangerous games. And my favorite game ever was to try to make some explosives, homemade explosives, just to blow up my Barbies. that's my childhood, actually, and that's why I guess 90% of my friends are males. Yeah, that's it.
Wow. I have to admit, though, my mind is wandering at what you must have looked like and sounded like with yelling at them in Italian. That just must have been a beautiful,
Oh, you don't want to know it, believe me.
You must have been like punk rock, just like.
Yes, I
Like-
love punk rock, in fact.
See?
Yes, of
I
course.
nailed it. I'm like,
Yo, that's where I learned it.
Nailed it.
Yeah, rage comes from inside and from my childhood, for sure.
wow.
that's awesome. So, real quick, some quick housekeeping. For everyone watching, you can interact with us in our live chat room on our new website, behindthescanner.com. There's a nice little chat link in the upper navigation. Go ahead and click that and join the conversation. We're having a lot of fun in there right now. I'm jumping in occasionally between this and that. So join us. So both Brian and Sarah, you guys have interesting megafield stories. Brian, how does one accidentally get involved in a 130 million MU op?
Well, the way that happens is you try to do your own little op that includes the throwing anchor that is the final anchor for that 130 million MU op. I just didn't know it. I had driven about 4 hours from Phoenix to Lake Havasu City because there was this one long blue link from northeastern Arizona to south central Arizona. I asked around in Phoenix if there were any keys available. I found some, and off I went. It ended up being due to a spoofed resonator, not even a spoofed link down, just one resonator fell off my target portal.
Huh.
I had to spend the night in Lake Havasu City instead of driving up and driving right back. Somebody went and deployed that resonator. I was able to throw my field, and minutes later I get a message from some people on the other side of town who were ready to throw layers over the southern half of California. So I drove across town, asked if they had a key that I could throw, and they said sure. So after throwing my first 2.2 million MU field, about 30 minutes later, I threw a 12.6 million MU field. So that was quite a coincidence.
It's right place, right time.
Exactly.
That's awesome. So, Sarah, tell us about how you earned your Onyx Illuminator.
Yeah, one of my best memory ever since I play Ingress. Well, it's not only because of the medal itself, it's because it showed me that the best part of this game, the team making. I was a fresh L9, so I only started 1 year ago to play Ingress. I'm L13 now, I'm not really high ranking. And the medal itself was out since not so much, and my team in Rome, we are part of a team called Masters of Rome, and they organized quite a big operation. The name was Aurora Viridis, which is Latin, but in English would be Green Dawn. And it was quite a nice field. It has this shape of looked like a butterfly, and then the head was heading to Rome, and then one wing on the north and the other to the south. amazing. At the end of the operation, a total of 22 million MUs were on. But then we started on the operation itself was meant for the agents to obtain the Onyx, and especially one of them, which is one of our top agents, Andrea. He needed his last black medal just to obtain his L16, because he only needed one more black, but he already had the APs and whatever. And so it had been organized for that. As I said, I was a fresh L9, so I was just to see what was happening. But then they told me, if you want, you can close the field. And then the first night, it was a Saturday night, I closed this field, and it was 350,000 MUs, and I was very happy with that and very excited because it was my first big operation. Then during the night, the anchors were broken, but the morning after, other agents went around cleaning, and they reclosed again the very same fields. But then one of our agents, he was actually one of the planners of the operation itself, Agent Iphons, he was stuck in the south because of a train strike, so which is quite usual in Italy. So he was not able to come back in Rome. And I offered myself, I will come in your village and pick you up and bring you back in the city. And so I did. And then when I arrived there, he told me, hey, we decided to close it again because we have cleaners around and we still have keys, so we will try again. So I will have myself my Onyx. That's what he said. So my friends went to clean, and after that he started closing those fields. And after a few of them, the Onyx popped up on a scanner, and I was excited. And then they decided that being that there were many layers available, I had to close them. But I was not prepared for that because I was there only for a coincidence. And so they passed me the keys, and I was able to close 10 layers for a total of more than 3 millions, because I was able myself to only have reached the gold. And so I had my Onyx, and it was wonderful, and really it was a gift. And those 4 people, so Agent Iphons, Tyrion, Nathan XY, and Wolf and Caligula, the agents who made this possible are still very close friends to me, and we're still working together.
That's fantastic. I mean, and you bring up a good point. Aside from stats, there's more to Ingress than just those numbers, like the social game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Brian, I mean, what's this about you having a fan club?
The fan club.
I don't even have a fan club. I mean, I'm not that interesting, but geez, that's awesome.
It kind of came out of nowhere. It was a couple players after an anomaly decided to create the Chai Brai fan club, and it was a Google Plus community. It was off and running, and people were actively posting. It was like photos of me from anomalies, and people recounting anecdotes, many of which were totally made up just for fun. There were almost 200 people in it at one point. And then, as Ingress things go, there was drama, and so we decided I asked that it be shut down, and it was. It was all very strange, and I'm okay with it not existing anymore.
You don't want a fan club?
For the drama.
I'm okay without it. I don't need the spotlight like that.
But they're like minions. You can have them do your bidding.
It actually seems like many of the members, or the still standing members, are in the already in the Q&As and the chat room. So, any former members or present members of the Chai Brai fan club or the Sushi fan club?
I don't have either.
or sushi eating fan club. Feel free to join us in the chat. But Sarah, also for the social game, you have an interesting career that may or may not affect your views on some of your, some in the community or other players that you interact with. Can you share with us what that is and how it's been helpful or not?
Well, I don't know if it's helpful or not, but for sure I use this, let's say, ability. I studied a lot of criminology and then behavioral science and human behavior, general speaking, and statistics as well. My studies are very, very strange. And actually, I'm a profiler. You would call it a profiler. We call it risk analyst. We have different situations here. But what do I do normally? It's just to try to understand, trends, patterns used by criminals, and just their modus operandi, and just to understand who you can trust or not by the movement of their eyes or the way they use their hands or things like that. And of course, this is something that's wanting or not, you're going to use it any day in your daily life. So I use it even when playing. So I actually profiled most of the people I met since the beginning. And I must admit that I don't trust that much my judgment at the beginning, because I always want to give second chances to people. But at the end of the process, I must admit that maybe 90% my guts are good, and I can really understand people and who to trust or who I have not to trust at all.
Yeah, got it. All right. Well, I think we're about halfway through. I think it's about time for code of the show. Frank, you ready to?
Is it time to rock and roll?
Yes.
Time to give away some goodies.
Reward the patient one.
Boom. Get your goods on. So these codes are shareable, but they are limited. You may get 10, you may get 20, you may even get 500 redemptions. I have no idea. So act fast, move those little fingers, and get those codes. So also, we have no idea what they hold, so if you find something good, go ahead and post it in the chat, because I want to see what you get. I unfortunately cannot redeem because I'm busy here not making my money, having fun with you guys. It's a volunteer position, folks.
Yes, it is. But you know what? We might have to double your salary.
Might have to, right?
Yes, absolutely. Especially if those codes are good, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Right.
I'm throwing in some free dancing.
Yes.
All right. How are we doing? Is that about it?
I think that's
5,
about it.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, I think that we might be having our weekly truth segment maybe a little bit later on in the show. It's live, so who knows what's going to happen. But all right, we will, I guess, resume our interview. And back to Frank.
Back to me. God, I'm popular this segment. This is awesome.
Yes,
I give you guys free goodies. I hang out. I dance. So Sarah, we'll start with you. But this is for both of you. You're both really active in your communities. How do you define your role or the role of local associations to support Ingress players?
Oh, well, thanks for the question, because it is something that I care very much. I think it's something that it's happening everywhere. Local groups and community try to get connections at a higher geographical level to be able to organize bigger events or operations or moving keys and things like that. But the problem with the communities at national level sometimes this is what happened in Italy for sure, that there were spontaneous aggregations of the early players who, of course, felt these needs since the beginning. But what happens now is that there has been an exchange of players, and new players came up, and there is no system in place. There is no turnover. So the guys there are always the same, and it's difficult to communicate sometimes. And so what happened 1 year ago is that a few enlightened agents here in Italy decided to join together at the national level and to create a non-profit association. It's called Enlightened Labs, and it's an association devoted to helping and supporting the enlightened all over the country. And of course, as I said, it's a non-profit, so that everybody can be an associate. You only have to spend maybe 10 euros, which is nothing, and the money will be, of course, used to organize things or to pay gadgets and stuff for the anomalies and things like that. And it started because of the anomaly, because we organized Florence last year, and it was awful because it was very difficult from the economical point of view, financial point of view, because one guy, he had to use his private records and accounts just to, for the money to come through for the sales and purchases, and then he had to answer to the tax administration about this money moving in his account, and it was not the case. So this was the first reason why we decided to create such an association, but of course now it changed a lot. Now it's becoming a coordination place, a social place, and we co-financed the creation of a site which is enlightened.rocks, which is actually being used all over the world just to trust people and organize and manage the anomalies. And I have to admit that it's a very lively environment. Because it's open and everybody is on the very same level. There are no rankings. Of course, there's a board, but the board is foreseen by the law because it's an association. I've been elected last week, and I'm a nobody. So everybody can become part of the association, and we have a lot of different things we are working on, and projects and operation, of course, and it's very nice. It's very nice.
That's awesome. That sounds like quite the undertaking. Like, it's not even just like, hey, we got a website, we got a community. Like, you guys have really built something pretty solid there.
Seriously.
Yeah. Right? It's pretty complex, sounds like, but awesome at the same time.
It is complex, and of course nobody is paid for that, even if bad voices are always around and they say that we use the money of the association to eat lobsters and to go to Barbados, but I swear we do it for free. I just ended a meeting with the association maybe half an hour before this program.
You should put at the bottom of the website, right at the very bottom in the footer, put "No sushi was consumed in the making of
That's a good idea.
Right?
Anyway, it's something that it can be done. It's difficult at the beginning because, of course, you're not used to it and legal stuff and things like that. But once it's there, it's a very useful tool to support people.
It's a labor of love, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Brian, I mean, along those same lines, why do you find community to be one of the most important things about Ingress?
Well, the real genius behind Ingress the game is the requirement that you work with other players to build higher level portals in order to get higher level gear and throw longer links. You can't do anything in this game. You can't do anything truly significant in the game on your own. You need to work with other players, and the more you want to do, the more important it is to have a large pool of players to do that with. And early on, I got very tired of hacking level 5 portals and started reaching out to every player I saw in comm, just like, hey, I'm over here, come by, like we'll go build an area, let's hack some level 6s, hooray! And it just built from there. I wanted to build the team, and eventually it grew and grew and grew, and smaller communities joined with larger communities, and that's how we ended up with the United Chicagoland Resistance. We had small communities for many areas of Chicago, and it didn't work well, and so we united, and now we're one giant community, and it's great.
And having experienced myself with kind of building communities and unifying things, I think it's something that maybe listeners who are either new or haven't been a part of it should know that. I mean, the way that you both describe it, there's clear complexity, and you're dealing with tons of people, but it's not an easy task, and there's probably tons of stories and pain points that happen throughout that whole process, and dealing with people and sometimes egos and getting everyone to work together.
There's definitely some of that. It's you can't bake a cake without cracking a few eggs kind of situation. But for the most part, you work with people rather than against them, and you get something better than what you had before.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, so the question that can be fun or not so fun, but anomalies, love them or hate them. Although I'm kind of cheating, I know you both love them. Why, Brian? Why anomalies?
So there's really two reasons I love anomalies. For me, the first, the thing that got me really interested in anomalies in the first place was it was a finite battle. Ingress had no end game. There was no checkpoints. There was no anything. It was just, well, we're winning right now. Oh, look, now we're losing. It changed second to second. And with an anomaly, you had this officially scored. It's basically set up like an American football match now. You have a game clock. You have 4 quarters, and I like having at the end of the day they say, okay, this team won or this team lost, and win or lose, it's always fun. And the reason, despite even if you do lose, the reason it's fun is that there's so many other players there, and you're all there for the same reason. You all came together to do this thing, and hey, you lost at the end of the day. Who cares? Now let's go party. It really comes down to the people.
I agree with that. How about you, Sarah? Why love anomalies?
Oh, I love them, really. Yeah, I love them for many different reasons. One of the reasons is the same that Brian just mentioned. Of course, it's win or lose, and sometimes you need it. But then it's the environment itself. It's like the spring break. It's like the day trip of your high school version 2.0, and it's nice because you meet your teammates from all over the country or from outside the country as well, and then you meet your opponents because you don't know many of them in daily game, and it's nice. I must admit, winning or losing. I've played 3 anomalies since I'm playing Ingress, and I've won 2. But even the last one we played in Milan, which we've lost. Of course, at the very beginning it was sad, but then in the end, who cares? We had a lot of fun, and the place was wonderful. The day was, the climate was okay, being Milan, which is something, and we had fun. We met a lot of people from all over the world, and we spent time chatting, going around on the mission day. It's amazing. It's really amazing. But then, of course, the win-lose situation, it's what drives you the most, and it's a way to test the ability of your team to work under pressure, and it's nice.
I'm gonna have to agree. I do have a lot of fun at anomalies, and you're right. I like the spring break metaphor of that. I didn't quite think of it that way, but yeah, it is a reunion, and yeah.
So for everyone watching, remember you can submit questions for our guests. We'll ask them in just a few minutes. If you're watching us via YouTube, you have to click the banner at the bottom of the video that says "Be part of the conversation." From there, just click the square grid menu icon in the upper right and select Q&A. And we should be sharing a screen right now for you to see how all that works. You probably can't see me making all these funny hand gestures, but jump on there, ask our guests some questions, and get to chatting. Also, like we said earlier, don't forget the website, behindthescanner.com. We're chatting it up there, talking about some fun stuff. drinks at the moment, and you can ask questions there too. So, let's see here. What do we have next? Sarah, what's the longest operation that you've participated in?
Oh gosh, I feel tired only thinking about it. Well, yes. Well, it's one of the things I do for the community. It's Intel. I'm an operator because I've got a kid. I've got a kid of 8 years old. He hates actually Ingress. Unfortunately, he prefers the Pokemon. Yeah, that's it. So I'm not able to go out every night to play, of course, but I'm not really a sleeping person, so I can stay, asleep and help people with the intel. And so once I've been asked by friends of ours from a neighboring region, it's called the Abruzzi, which is a region just close to my region, and they had to close this operation. It was called 118 because 118 is the emergency number for the ambulance. It's like 911 here in Italy. And the reason was, I guess, double. The main reason was that they were going to close 118 layers. But the other reason, but as I understood later, is that they were completely crazy. And then, of course, I told them, okay, I can be your operator, but please tell me we will finish early because tomorrow I've got a meeting. And I say, okay, yes, no problem. We will start at 9:30 p.m., no problem, couple of hours, and you will go to sleep. Okay, so we started at 9:30 p.m., but I was able to leave the Intel at 6:30 in the morning.
Oh my God.
I had a fast shower and then directly to the office. And I must admit it was early. So they were not even, joking at that point. Then in the end, they closed 154 layers for a total of, I can't even remember how many MUs, but it was amazing, really.
Dear gosh, yeah, that does sound amazing.
Yeah, that's crazy. Brian, what is Krakow Week?
Krakow Week. That was, so for the final weekend of Enteritus, Krakow, it was Krakow in Europe and Gettysburg in the U.S. as the finales. Chicago got announced as a connected cell for the Krakow event, and this is when the connected cell efforts were for the entirety of the septicycle up to the final measurement of the connected event. And so, these days when they do connected cells, it's for the length of the anomaly. So basically, you're fielding, you're trying to do these fielding efforts over a matter of like 5 hours or so. And for Krakow Week, we started the cycle on Tuesday and had to, battle it out with the Chicago Enlightened until I think the checkpoint was at like 3 a.m. Chicago time, and we were at the time we had been losing the septicycle pretty regularly. We were, I think, pretty much everybody expected we were going to get destroyed that week, and we started talking about it. I had several months before I had captured this lone little portal out in the middle of nowhere in central Indiana. I farmed it for a bunch of keys. It had someone else put that's right. Someone else had put hack mods on it, and I went and used their hack mods to farm keys, and then I flipped it, captured it, and deployed it as a level 1 portal, fully deployed, but I could link to it. I figured that would sort of keep it off the radar, and a couple months later, we get announced as this connected cell, and I'm like, I have these keys. This sounds like an operation for that lone little portal. And Sunday night, I mentioned it to Josh Stock, Agent the Red 7. He's a great fielding guy. I said, I have these keys. I think we can make a pretty sweet lane from Abe Martin Lodge. That's the portal in central Indiana, and link it up to a lighthouse, Winnetka Lighthouse, I think it was, on the shore of Lake Michigan, and it just skirted right by all the portals along the coast of Chicago, on the coast in Chicago, and it was perfect. So Josh ran with that, and about 48 hours later, we were putting up 32 million MU over Chicago, and 4 million a layer, 8 layers, and I hate to say it, they never saw it coming.
Yeah. I gotta say, man, I'm pretty glad that we're on the same team, because you keep getting like a lot of lucky breaks with like these big fields, all these massive counts.
I don't feel very much, but I guess when that happens,
when
they
you
turn out
do,
pretty
right?
well. Yeah.
When you do, look out.
Yeah, but that really was the first shot fired that week, and it was a real back and forth battle. When it came down to it, we won. Like, we won points for the effort in Krakow. In UCR, we refer to it as Krakow Week, and it was quite a while later, and I think it was a comment made on Kelly Colton's Portalside chat when she used to do those. But we found out that the Chicago Enlightened refer to that week as Hell Week, which for several of us in UCR, that just brings a smile to our face. It was hellish for everyone, but I guess more hellish for them.
So, okay, but Kelly used to do, was it the weekly happy hour? I think it's the Ingress happy hour.
Right, that's right.
Actually, for the Portalside chat, Frank is one of the halves of the Portalside chat hosts.
Yeah, one of the halves. My wife is the other half, Shannon. She's not here.
I got it. Okay. But my Ingress media history is off.
It's okay.
We're all when we all unite. It's our own little spring break here on.
It is. BTS is like the Voltron of Ingress media. Like, all of us came together and created this like mega beast of entertainment.
We are the board.
With your powers combined, is that
right?
Yeah, in fact, that's how I met Jorge.
Yeah, that's kind of how we all met, right? It's kind of like, you do this? Oh, you talk into a box by yourself?
Yeah,
why?
Pretty much. Or getting drunk in front of the computer and talking to people.
I'm totally doing that right now. Cheers.
I was just going to say, wait a second, we still do that while I'm drinking water tonight, but not always. All right, so in the meantime, Brian, how would you or would someone else describe you as a player?
That's an interesting question. I these days I'm not as active in the scanner as I once was. Early on in the game, I had AP that was considered at an elite level, and I got more and more into community building over time. And these days, it's even more about community connecting. Like when agents are going somewhere else, I try to find them someone to connect with. So these days, in the scanner, I'm pretty casual outside of going to anomalies, and yeah, as far as actual gameplay, anomalies is kind of what it's all about for me now.
All right, and Sarah, how about you?
That's a weird question. I've not been able to define myself, so I've asked around. How would you define me? Buzzed in February, and I've been said I'm committed and a wild card. They call me the wild card because I don't play that much, as I mentioned, being that I have a work and I have a kid. So, but whenever they call me, whatever the day it is, the time in the day, and tell me there's a portal to break down 20 kilometers from you, I leave everything I'm doing and I start running. And normally I made it. Or this was particularly true before, and nowadays I'm more like Brian. Maybe I'm I'm called like a facilitator because I'm very able in connecting people. So I don't have any special capabilities myself, but I'm very good at making people having capabilities to meet with each other, and so connecting people to be the best way to describe me.
Very cool. Well, shall we start on the viewer questions? We've got quite a few.
I guess go for it.
All right.
Take your chances. Here they come.
Oh boy.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, let's see. One involves a picture that I'm not sure how appropriate that is, so I'm going to skip that.
We're not that drunk yet. We'll come back.
I think this is actually a very good question from Fake Chai Brai.
Oh, geez.
Question to human Chibri. Which scotch do you pair with hint water?
Which what?
Which scotch do you pair with hint water?
Glenlivet 18. That's what the UCR team gave me a bottle of after Helios Chicago. So obviously it's the best pairing for hint water.
Yeah, Helios and Scotch. They go together.
All right. Yes, it seems to be the theme of the night. And Zayans wanted to ask as well, how the koi check going? Found the koi? Is there a special story behind that?
So the koi check thing was there were so many. I mean, the hashtag coin check thing became really common on Google Plus, and you know it's fun. And one day, just sort of as my sense of humor goes, ridiculous, incorrect information. I find it. I don't know. I find it funny when you get something wrong and still turn it into a thing. And anyway, I decided to just drop the N, and it became koi check. And I started using pictures of fish instead of coins, and that it took off way more than I expected it to. People still post things with that hashtag, and will plus tag me, and haven't seen one in a couple weeks. Maybe I need to go fish hunting.
All right. And question for Sarah. Which one is more important for Ingress agents? Inventory, time, or fellow agents?
Fellow agents for sure. As far as I already said, social part is definitely the most interesting one. So I'm not that much interested into inventory. Of course, time is an asset because you need time for meeting fellow agents as well. But the social part for me is the interesting one. The game itself, okay, there's a bit of strategy inside and behind, and that part I like it. But the game itself, going around linking portals, well, after a week, it was not that thrilling anymore. But with the others, meeting with the others, and that's the part I love the most.
Okay, we do have what did they call it on Jeopardy? The picture question?
Yeah.
Jesse, pull it up. Yes, the question was, how did this picture come about? Because I want to know now.
Is that let's see.
That's the one from Red 7.
Yes. That actually is a photo from Krakow Week, a relatively infamous photo at this point, and that infamy appears to be growing. There had been a joke in one of the many Hangouts I was in about just bunny ears, and I went on Amazon, I searched for bunny ears, and came up with these, which are from, I guess they were associated with the most recent Alice in Wonderland movie. Anyway, they're pretty detailed. They have like veins in the ears. It's kind of gruesome. But during that week, the week of no sleep and no food, in the middle of that, I just took that photo, just a selfie with the bunny ears on, and posted it to the Hangout with basically, "This is how I'm feeling right now," and that photo has been spread all over the place. It was one of the featured photos in the Chai Brai fan club, of course, but I'm so glad that Josh has shared that on an international level.
That's
All
my
right.
screensaver. I'm just letting you know.
Yes,
That's
yes. I
that's
think
you,
It's on my phone. It's on my phone lock screen every day. I see it.
awesome.
Aside from that photo, well, actually, this question will be for Sarah. Wilder Ronan, another BTS alumni or alumnus, asks, of your experiences within Ingress, do you have a favorite moment?
My favorite moment?
Yes.
I guess I already told my favorite moments, and I've got so many. In fact, it's very difficult for me to. It's whenever I have fun, whenever I have real fun, and I have so many moments in my memories when I really was feeling ill for how much I was laughing with my friends, and this is something I really love of my team, because we laugh a lot. Maybe we are not always winning, but we always find a reason to laugh and to have fun and to really to enjoy being together and playing this game. This is so I've got too many to be said.
That's great, and that's really good advice, is remembering, yeah, that fun, regardless of whatever outcome. All right, and I like this question for both of you, since you both manage communities. From Douglas Burge, what have you found instrumental in successfully moderating a large community of agents, given the various socioeconomic backgrounds, diverse personality types, and widely varying play styles and desires? Basically, how do you deal with all the different personalities in the community?
Sort of the same rules at work. No religion, no politics. That goes a long way. And also just listening to people. I mean, you know, usually when there's an issue between two agents, you just got to listen to both of them and talk to both of them, and you can resolve it pretty easily. But a lot of people just, they don't want to sit and take the time to listen.
All right, and you, Sarah?
Well, as Brian said, I use a lot of things that I learned on my work. Last year, I had the opportunity of chairing a group at the level of the Council of the EU, the European Union, because, you know, we have this presidency shifts of 6 months each. And being there, being the president of such a group, was a great lesson, because you have to manage and to understand how to get the Dutch talking to the Germans and then to the French and survive at the end of the day. And
yeah.
So yes, and this experience is something I'm still using, you know, because normally I'm not that diplomatic. I'm absolutely not diplomatic, but I had to learn and to find a balance somewhere, and not always to yell, and then you cannot always say what you're thinking, even if from my perspective it should be the best way to proceed. So listening people, as Brian said, and then trying to push them to have fun whenever they are going to argue with each other. This is something which is particularly easy for me. I don't know, maybe I'm funny myself, but this is something that normally I'm able to do at the end of the day.
Really good advice. Thanks for that. Actually, I often wonder that myself. Yeah, it's actually good. You might have to incorporate that question a little bit more often. All right. So it's 10:04. So it's about that time for our BTS tradition. For better or worse, we give every guest at the end of their interview 60 seconds to talk about whatever they would like. You can give a shout out, show off a talent, or I mean, pretty much, well, anything. So whenever you're ready, Brian, why don't you go ahead and start?
There's no way I'm taking a full 60 seconds on this one. I'm just going to say UCR forever. Woohoo! Stay safe and warm in Virginia, everybody out there. It's going to be a rough weekend, especially for some of our hosts here. No. Rule number 1: no dying for Ingress. Stay safe. I'll also end with Rezu is awesome. Hashtag supposed to win.
All right. Thank you very much. And how
I
about
gotta
you,
say,
Sarah?
That's a pretty solid rule, just to jump in there real quick. That's a pretty solid rule, number 1.
Agreed.
For me as well, I would only like to thank my teammates for this wonderful year we spent together. And so I would say thank you to both my local team, which is the Masters of Rome, and the Enlightenment Labs, the association I mentioned before, because they are providing me with a lot of fun and pleasant days together and so on. And then I would like really to mention all of my friends, but we have so many. I've got a very small group, 4 of them, which we chat every day, strictly because we are so-called the fielders, those who plan operation and things like that. So we'll mention only them maybe. So Luca and Mathieu now, and then we have Gianluca, and then we have Marco, and today is Marco's birthday, so a very happy birthday, Marco. You've been such a good friend to me in this year we passed to spend together, so that's it.
Oh, lovely, and happy birthday, Marco.
Can I call a global coin check?
Yes, do it. Do it now.
It's
right
up.
now.
What
There
is
it
that?
It's a burn coin, a challenge coin.
I was going to run in the other room and grab mine, but I don't have time. I was like, oh, man. I saw you pull that out. I was like, oh, you got me. It's out of my pocket. So, yeah, everyone, we can't verify you have coins, so we're just going to go ahead and say Scout's honor. But, thanks for playing. On that note, I want to thank Brian and Sarah for joining us. You guys were a lot of fun. It was great having you on the show. And
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you both for being here.
Ciao.
And shout out to the chat room over there.
Shout
See you guys
out.
next week.
Koi check is coming up on the chat room. Brian, so what's this I hear about you and Scotch, man? I hear you got a thing for the juice.
I do. I'm a big fan of Scotch. I've got quite a collection. It has a tendency to dwindle, so you have to replenish from time to time.
Yeah, I'm partaking right now. I love me some Scotch. It's like candy. I enjoy it.